Hello everyone, I am Denmark Wasilem Bakungis. So our topic is the LUMAD past the conquest of Mindanao through resettlement. So I'm gonna be discussing the significant challenges. So the LUMAD groups of Mindanao have faced and continue to face long-term displacement and legalized land disposition. Many indigenous groups in the Philippines experience discrimination, degradation of measured species and consume conflict. Eight communities, generally located in distinct ancestral territories, have high rates of unemployment and underemployment and illiteracy. Indigenous communities have also been displaced from their lands due to the consume conflicts. So, ang mga grupo sa mga lumadin ni sa Mindanao nagatubang sa taas nga panahon nga sila wala makapanagiya sa yuta nga ilang nasunod sa ilang mga katigulangan. So daghan sa mga grupo sa lumad nakasinati og diskriminasyon, ubos ang pagtan-aw sa uban sa kanila og nakasinati usab sa mga kagubot tungod kay sila nagpuyo man sa lagyo nga lugar nga teritoryo sa ilang mga katigulangan. Kasagaran sa ila dili makapanarbaho og wala makaeskwela sila usab nakabalin sa lain-laing lugar tungod sa kagubot tali sa mga armadong kusog. So sa karon nga panahon giyatagan sila og pagtagad sa atong gobyerno. Nakapanagiya na sila og yuta sa ilang ancestral domain ug aduna na sila settlement area ug daghan na sa ilang nga naka-eskwela ug nakapanarbaho sa pagkaka.
Hello everyone, I am Lilibeth Ayok and my topic is about Spanish colonization. During the Spanish colonization, the Spaniards established coastal settlement but failed to gain full control over Mindanao's interior. The LUMAD moved inland to places like Opol, Bukidnon, and Agusan to preserve their traditional way of life and avoid forced Christianization or becoming landless peasants, as had happened in Luzon and Visayas. After the Treaty of Paris in 1898, the Americans exploited Mindanao's vast natural resources, such as timber and land. This led to the island's integration into the global capitalist system, but many Lumad and Moro communities lost their ancestral lands and livelihoods. While the Spaniards never fully subdued Mindanao, the Americans achieved this through brutal military campaigns that disseminated many resisting Moro communities. Following military conquest, the American and Philippine governments implemented resettlement programs, bringing large numbers of migrants from Luzon and the Visayas to Mindanao. These migrants introduced a feudal land system, displacing many Lumad and Moro from their ancestral territories. As a result, forced resettlement and spontaneous migration changed Mindanao's demographics, creating land disputes that persist to this day. Historian B.R. Rodell 1994 noted that these policies literally overturned the lives of indigenous peoples. Today, Mindanao remains divided, facing ongoing land conflicts, economic struggles, and social tensions rooted in its colonial history. Thank you.
The American colonial government resettlement program in Mindanao between 1911 and 1913 was a multifaceted initiative driven by critical rice shortage in Sulu and Zamboanga. General John Pershing, seeking to address this issue, called for homesteaders from Luzon and Visayas to cultivate the fertile lands of Mindanao to entice settlers, particularly Cebuanos. The Americans showcased the region's agricultural potential with displays like a 13-foot cornstalk, while also requiring settlers to possess harness skills, revealing a secondary objective of pacification amidst Moro resistance. This program, formalized by the Philippine Commission Act No. 2254 in 1913, established agricultural colonies in key areas like the Cotabato Valley, Maguindanao, and Glan, significantly impacting the region's demographics and laying the groundwork for future agricultural development and while serving the colonial aims. So, the American government, while controlled the Philippines at the time, was facing a food shortage, especially the rise in southern areas of Sulu and Zamboanga. So, General Pershing decided to move people from the more populated island of Luzon and Visayas, especially the Cebuanos, to the fertile but less populated island of Mindanao. To get people to move, the American promoted Mindanao rich farming land by showing off impressive example of its agricultural potential like a giant cornstalk. They also required settlers to know arnis, a Filipino martial art, which hence a need for them to be able to defend themselves. To solve the food shortage by having the settlers grow crops to populate and control Mindanao, which was experiencing a resistance from the local Moro people. So, um, to develop the agricultural potential of Mindanao, the government set up agricultural colonies in places like Cotabato Valley, Maguindanao, Glan. This program changed the population of Mindanao and started the development of large scale of farming, but it also served the interest of the American colonial government. Person in this picture was General John G. Pershing, a legendary American military leader. He commanded the American Expeditionary Forces in World War I and led the fight against the Moro resistance in the Philippines. So, General John G. Pershing, known as the Moro Conqueror, for his role in suppressing the Moro resistance in the Philippines during the early 19th. A pivotal figure in American military history, he led the American Expeditionary Forces to victory in World War I and played a key role in shaping the modern U.S. Army. Mindanao resettlement. So more than just farming. Settlement programs from American rule to post-independence moved landless farmers to Mindanao. This addressed food needs and unrest elsewhere, but also served as a tool for colonial expansion. Settlers acted as a colonizing force and a frontline against more resistance followed by land ownership, ultimately contributing to the region's ongoing conflict. So, these settlers were just as a colonizing force, meaning they helped the government take over the land. They were also put in front lines to fight against the Moro people, who were resisting the government. The promise of owning the land foiled this movement. This led to problems that are still happening in Mindanao today. So, in short, the government moved farmers to Mindanao to solve problem, but also take control of the area and use them to fight the Moro people. So, this can cause lasting conflict. Conflict and colonization in Mindanao, driven by food shortage and agrarian unrest, the settlement program transformed Mindanao from American rule to the Quirino Recto Act. Landless Christian farmers were relocated, creating a colonizing force. These settlers were strategically placed against Moro resistance, promised land, and armed to defend it, igniting tensions that persist today. The government back then needed more food and had problems. Many farmers didn't own land, so they decided to move these farmers to Mindanao. This started when America was in charge and continued with later laws. These farmers weren't just moving, they were helping the government take control of Mindanao. They were put in places where the local Moro people were fighting against the government. The government promised them land and gave them guns to protect themselves. This caused a lot of bad feelings and fighting that still causes problem in Mindanao today. Basically, the government used farmers to take over Mindanao and fight the Moro people, and this led to lasting conflict.
Maayad haadlaw everyone, I am Bao Ashley Claire, and I'll be discussing the impact of resettlement programs on the economic relations and demographic of LUMAD territories, particularly in Mindanao. The resettlement program led to significant changes in LUMAD communities, disrupting their traditional ways of life. The LUMAD, who once practiced shifting agriculture in areas like Bukidnon, were increasingly fenced off from their land. Settlers, often Christians, migrate from the lowlands, use deceptive tactics to acquire the land, initially offering gifts that later become burdensome loans, forcing the LUMAD to give up their communal and unsurveyed land. In the early 90s, town in Cotabato and surrounding areas had large LUMAD and Moro population, but the mid-19s, these areas saw an influx of Christian settlers, changing the demographic makeup. So, for instance, Bukidnon populations grow from 28,150 in 1903 to 57,195 by 1932, largely due to migrants from Visayas and Luzon. This shift in population and land ownership was part of the broader process of displacement caused by both colonial and Philippine government policies. So these changes highlights how resettlement not only altered economic relations but also contribute to the assimilation and marginalize of the Luzon and of the Lumad and Moro population in Mindanao. To the full extent of this impact, including the dissemination of indigenous inhabitants, it is still a subject for further study. So that's all. Thank you.